Panel. Thank you for being here. I know it's not an easy task after the lunch, so thank you again. My name is Tudor CURTIFAN. I'm Editor-in-Chief at Defense Romania, and I will moderate this panel. Our panel, The Vital Triangle of Connectivity, Romania, Ukraine, the Republic of Moldova. A short brief about this panel, as Romania will continue to support Ukraine. I think it's an essential thing, and it is a good news because we are on the right side of history today. But after the Russians' unprovoked war against Ukraine, there will be a big opportunity for involvement in the reconstruction of Ukraine as well. And Romania has important advantages here, like such as maritime connections, fluvial connections on the Danube, railways, roads, and the roads connections. So, and from Romanian perspective, this involvement in the reconstruction process of Ukraine must be connected also with the Republic of Moldova. This is the central point of our panel, and we will have a discussion about the process with our distinguished speakers. I would like to say welcome to our online speakers as well and the online audience, because we are transmitting the conference also online. That being said, let me introduce our speakers, and I will start with our guests. Mrs. Yulia KLYMENKO, First Deputy Head of Transport and Infrastructure Committee at Verkhovna Rada, Ukraine. Mrs. KLYMENKO, thank you for being here. Mr. Oleg Tofilat, he's online. He's CEO of State Enterprise Railway of the Republic of Moldova. Mr. Tofilat, hello. From Romania, Mr. Ionel, hello, Mr. Tofilat. From Romania, Mr. Ionel SCRIOTTEANU, State Secretary, Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, Romania. Bună ziua. And last but not the least, Mr. Sorin Chinde, Vice President of GRAMPET Group Feroviar Român. Mr. Chinde, hello. We will have a debate. We will start the discussion with our speakers, and then we will have a session of Q&A. Of course, at the end, the conclusions. So, I would like to start with Mrs. KLYMENKO to talk about the projects. There are so many projects regarding the reconstruction of Ukraine, and I would like to ask you, in what way can the public and private sector collaborate during the preparation and implementation phases of those projects?
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me here, inviting, and also thank you for the Ukrainian army keeping the front line and allowing me to come here, as well as thank you for Romanian people who support us for the whole period of the unprovoked and unjustified war. So. Coming back to our discussion on reconstruction and what we can do together with Romania, Moldova, and Ukraine, I think we have so many projects in pipeline, even not waiting until the war will end, because Ukraine is a very big country with a very great potential. We are growing. Before the war in 2021, we grew over 100 million tons of grains, only grains. We're exporting 60 million tons out of this 110 million tons. So the size and the capacity of our agricultural sectors, of our metallurgical sector, chemical sectors, and many other sectors are so big that it's enough business for everybody, as I'm saying. If for Romania and for Moldova and for Poland and for all our neighbors who are staying with us now and helping us. So in past 2 years, what we've done, we actually focused with Romania. We focused on the development of Danube cluster, as we are saying it in Ukraine cluster, because it's not only ports, it's also roads, it's also railways, and many other things around it. And before the war, it was not such a developed region in terms of logistics, because actually deep ports of Odessa and Mykolaiv and Kherson always prevail because it's a cheaper logistics, and that's why actually Danube cluster was not so of interest for many businesses. But now we see that this is for us it's a primary option. Because all our ports blocked, and blocked very purposely by Russia. Why? Because they are not only disturbing and making troubles for Ukrainian economy, they also disturbing the whole world. Because Ukraine feeding more than 400 million people in mostly in low-income Asian and African countries. And the instability in these countries will bring more refugees to Europe, will bring more political disturbances worldwide, will already brought inflation and prices up in Europe, and not only in Europe. And when you know, I am a politician. When the prices is up, your voters is going to the competitive party, actually. So this is the big problem, because it will bring political instability not only in Africa, Asia, in Europe as well. And this is the plan of Mr. Putin, who by blocking the port reached many things, like refugees, like prices, and he is also benefiting because he is selling his agricultural products and chemicals on triple prices, as well as gas. So, and this is, I mean, purely cynical economic war, I would say, not only physical war, but economical war. So. And we need to be together, all of us, to defend ourselves, not only defend, but put Mr. Putin on his place and protect our shores, protect our infrastructure, as well as protect our economies. Because if we will struggle with economies, it will be very difficult to keep our armies in a good shape, pay soldiers, and have a war, basically. It's an expensive exercise. So what we can do all together? As a parliament, for past 2 years, we significantly simplify all rules and procedures in construction infrastructure projects in the Danube cluster from Ukrainian side. So now you don't need to collect 1,000 documents to start project in the Danube cluster. So that's why, as my colleague in previous panel said, we have now 15 investment projects in this region. Also, as a country and as a budget, a state budget, we heavily invested into the roads, as well as facilities and the checkpoints to increase the number of checkpoints and the quality of these checkpoints with Romania and Moldova to export. Also, we are now on the stage of developing, and I hope in next 2 months we will approve a maritime strategy, which will be our guidelines where we need to put our efforts to make maritime logistics as well as a maritime security, Black Sea and Azov region securities more sustainable, and not only like for the wartime, but also after the war, because Black Sea region, it will be the core region for all of us. Basically, because we are, for example, Ukraine getting 70% of the export-import operation through ports, through maritime logistics, as well as 60% of our foreign currency coming into the budget from the maritime logistics. And that's why we are of big interest of development with Moldova and Romania, not only Danube, but also to proceed with a railway harmonization, I would say. It's even not construction, but harmonization, because you know that we have a different size of wides of railways. And also we are ratified as a parliament and will be already investing into the bridge to Moldova. So I hope in next 2 years we will have this bridge, which is also make it much easier for land logistics, as well as we need to increase passenger turnover, because we have a lot of Ukrainians, as you will see, refugees, Ukrainian refugees who left and fled the war. They are a lot of them now in the southern part of Europe. So for them to travel to Ukraine, it's better to take Moldova or Romania routes than going through the Poland or any other countries to Ukraine. So the passenger part will be also of interest for many years. So from our side, we are ready to work to extend our cooperation, and as well as to harmonize our strategies, particularly in Black Sea region, as well as seeking funds from the European Union to extend our logistics, because probably this is the best way and cheapest way to find money for these projects on a local level, on the oblast level, as well as on a national level.
We need a common strategy and work together.
Exactly.
Because
now we are developing
together.
Harmonize and have one for the Black Sea region. Otherwise, we will not able to sustain Putin. He has a big strategy, and he has a big brother of China standing behind him and looking at the Black Sea as one of the core elements in European trade. So that's why for us it's a protection of our national and European interest in the Black Sea against Russia, as well as a China expansion in our infrastructure.
Thank you. My next question goes to all other speakers, and I would like to start with Mr. Tofilat. Mr. Tofilat, connectivity is crucial for Ukraine reconstruction process and the modernization of Republic of Moldova. What would be the priorities from the perspective of your country? You have the floor, Mr. Tofilat.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mrs. KLYMENKO, for the great insight. So, what is seen from our perspective? Last spring and summer, I mean the spring and summer of 2022, all of us witnessed a total turnaround of all regional logistics, be it freight or passenger. A huge surge of demand which exceeded all the available infrastructural capacities of Moldova, Romania, and other countries in Western Europe. So what we made at CFM, what we were busy at in this period, were plans of capacity enlargement and actions. So we prepared the proposal for rehabilitation of Solidarity Lanes corridor from Mogilov-Podolsky in Ukraine down to Beltsungen, Chisinau, Kainar to the south of Moldova, which would connect the Mogilov-Podolsky with the Danube ports. Today we have fully arranged the financing. The project will exceed 100 million euros, and we are in course of launching the procurement, where I think the business from Ukraine might be interested in delivering works and materials, but not only from Ukraine. Then, together with Ukrzaliznytsia, we restored the circulation on Artsiz-Berezino-Basarabiaska section, linking the Danube ports directly with Odessa. That sector was not operated for 20 years, so now it's fully operated. Also, we equipped there a common border crossing point, Moldova-Ukraine, by our own resources, so it's fully functional for more than half a year. Furthermore, we agreed a cooperation memorandum with Ukrzaliznytsia on the rehabilitation of the infra in Moldova, so they would assist us with their knowledge, equipment, and other capacities. We added a lot of transshipment capacities at Ungain for gas, grains, liquid fuels. We increased the number of bogies available for transposition from broad gauge to the UIC gauge used in Europe. That's exactly the first emphasis we were putting, and not only we in Moldova, but all the continent was about that, is the capacity. The year 2003 put pressures not just on the capacity, but also on the cost of logistics, because in 2023, the prices for the commodities were much lower than in 2024, so every penny in the grain logistic counted. So it required the optimization of all the related processes. And in this respect, we at CFM agreed with Ukrainian stakeholders on competitive fares correlated with the volumes transported through the Danube corridor. And then we signed agency agreements with Ukrzaliznytsia, so the customers, the railway freight customers, may purchase the whole service on the logistic chain between Ukraine and Moldova with one single carrier. And we have the same plans with the Romanian carriers. We also promoted the ratification of bilateral agreements so that the trains could pass through the Reni section, a 30-kilometer sector in the south, without border control, which will improve the speed of movement of wagons by up to 20% and will make the logistic chain cheaper by about $5 per ton. We also are working on a tri-party strategy between Romania, Ukraine, and Moldova on the waterborne and the railway freight on the Danube corridors. And I salute on the occasion Mr. SCRIOTTEANU, who is leading this group from the part of Romania. So that's what we are doing here in Moldova. We are looking forward to implement the Solidarity Lanes corridor works. We're working with our partners from Romania and Ukraine on that collective strategy, and we are there to be up to the challenge. It's definitely a unique time we are living, and the challenges we are facing, most of them are unexplored. It is unknown for us how much the war will last, how much of the current solutions would be competitive afterwards, what would be the demand post-war. But we have to combine our logistic reshaping efforts with the railway reform agenda, which was drawn up in the association agreement, and with an ambitious investment pipeline. We improved also the circulation of the passenger trains. Now we have much more capacity from Chisinau to Bucharest and Kiev, and from Chisinau to Iași. So challenges times are made for daring people. We at CFM are constantly daring and managing to succeed. And at the end, the most important, glory to Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to add something?
No, just glory to Ukraine.
Thank you. Mr. SCRIOTTEANU, I would like to hear your opinion as well, but from the perspective of Romanian government regarding the priorities and perspective of this process of rebuilding Ukraine. You have the floor.
Am să vorbesc în limba română.
I will speak in Romanian. First and foremost, I would like to thank you for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to represent the Ministry of Transportation in Romania. Because at this event, we will showcase the efforts made so that Romania can directly participate in the reconstruction of Ukraine. First and foremost, I would like us to start from what we had at the beginning of the conflict, the transport infrastructure in Romania, in the Republic of Moldova, and in Ukraine. Because when it comes to infrastructure, we have some short-term and medium-term interventions, but we also need some long-term interventions. When it comes to infrastructure, we are lagging behind in our relation with the Republic of Moldova and Ukraine. Russia always wanted to create difficulties, transport difficulties between the Soviet region and the European region. This is why the gauge is presenting many logistic challenges. The Republic of Moldova, under Russia's control, had to demolish the bridges that connected Romania to the Republic of Moldova. Now we only have 6 bridges, whereas in the past there were 26. These are big minuses, and our first initiative with our Ukrainian and Moldavian partners focused on short-term investments in order to support Moldova and Ukraine and obstacle Russia from their attempts to stop exports from Ukraine. And this way, we wanted to play the game against Russians. So, from 300,000 tons of cereals that were exported by Ukraine at the beginning of the conflict, by the end of 2022, we managed to meet the target of 1 million tons, whereas October 2023 was the month with the highest level of exports, 3 million tons of grains were exported. There were a few investments made, but we focused on optimizing our resources and a good cooperation between our partners in Moldova and Ukraine and us. So we have, on the one hand, the transport infrastructure, and on the other hand, the reconstruction of Ukraine. We need to focus on both pathways, because in order to have a fast reconstruction of Ukraine and a sustainable one, I think we need the right infrastructure that can allow for that. And since we cannot build highways in Ukraine very quickly and make connections of the railway with the European gauge that would carry freight in the middle of the country, in the center of the country, we need to optimize the border crossings, the checkpoints. And this is why Romania, together with Ukraine, has elaborated a strategy to develop the road checkpoints. We do not have the possibility to quickly build a highway. This is why we focused on the checkpoints so that they can improve the transport capacity between Romania and Ukraine. This strategy and all the projects involved means 1.2 billion euros of investment. So these are parallel investments carried out on both parts of the borderline. We also need investments across the logistic chains in inland ports, Danube ports, and Black Sea harbors. The second part of transport infrastructure reconstruction should focus on railway connections and road connections and port connections that would link the Republic of Moldova and Ukraine to the main European corridors. So we have that platform, 3Cs initiative. And in that initiative, we have two strategic axes. And the Republic of Moldova and Ukraine were invited in this initiative, in the 3Cs initiative, and became associate countries. And the Constanța port, under the 3Cs initiative, will be connected to Gdansk port in Poland and other Baltic Sea ports. But we would also want to build a new road corridor and railway corridor that partially overlaps with the corridors under the 3Cs initiative. And it will use part of the Bucharest-Constanța corridor and the Pan-European corridor number 9 that leads to Siret and to the borderline with Ukraine, and then it will reach Lviv and Gdansk. And one corridor should connect our future highway called A8 to Chișinău and Odessa. And there will be an intercorridor that we also want to develop between Odessa, Galați, and Brăila using the new bridge over Danube, and then to continue to Tulcea and Constanța. So we will have a new European corridor that will link Odessa to Constanța and maybe even to Bulgaria.
I think you have translation. You have translation. Okay, perfect. As you said, the infrastructure and the way we organize are critical. And as you said, time means money. And I'm thinking, for the example, to Dornești and Constanța railway, where passenger trains run with 2 or 3 carriages, and cargo train could benefit more from that, because we are speaking about infrastructure and the way we organize.
Încă de la începutul discuțiilor cu partea ucraineană.
From the beginning, we discussed with our Ukrainian partners in order to focus on railway cargo. And we have this difference in gauge at the borderline. We are not using the railway capacity at its maximum, or at least not yet. We calculated the number of trains or train sets that can transit the border, and we ended up with around 18 trains. Now we have 8 trains per day going to Constanța, so there are opportunities when it comes to railway transportation. In our last discussions with our Ukrainian partners, we launched the procedures for a work group to optimize the freight transport on railway.
to hear your opinion. And my question for you is, what will be the connectivity role using railways? Because, or will the process of modernization of Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova also mean a transition to Western type railways? Thank you. You have the floor, Mr. Kinde.
Mulțumesc în primul rând pentru invitația la
Thank you for the invitation to this forum. I would like to tell you a few words about GRAMPET. GRAMPET is a group reuniting railway operators that carry out activities in 8 countries. We have 4 factories, 4 railway stock repairs, and 150 million as turnover. From the beginning of the war, we took over these flows that appeared overnight. There was no grain transit through Romania via Constanța port before the war, nor transit of oil products. We took over goods transportation, and we all understood the difference in gauge. But 2 important elements overlapped. There was one investment from the public sector to rehabilitate our infrastructure, and we have the rehabilitation of rail cars and also custom officers started working 24/7. Then us as a group, we will give an increased capacity in Dornești. We will also have an increase of the transshipment, and we will have an increase of the railway stock. The transportation capacity towards various ports is increased from Dornești to Cristești to Constanța. Yes, of course, they will be highly useful even when we need to transport various construction materials. If we need to ship them to Ukraine, all these newly improved capacities will be used in a positive manner. Now, with respect to the investments to transform the gauge in Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova, I think a business case is needed, because I always view things from this point of view. Since I am an agent of the private sector, the money used to change the gauge maybe is more usefully used to improve traffic, because we have a railway that is done through only one rail line, and maybe we need to improve the transit capacities and the train capacity in between the 2 countries. Of course, we need to improve the transshipment capacities in order to ship different freight, different cargoes. But before changing the gauge, maybe we should focus on what can be improved with a minimal investment and a better organization.
The 3Cs initiative, and I would like to ask you, can be this a huge opportunity for connectivity?
Yeah, we hope to be someday to be a full right member in the 3Cs. Now we are not a full right member, but still we, after the 3Cs initiatives, you know that in Moldova and Ukraine we are included into TNT European project, and I hope we will use this opportunity as much as we can, because this is one of the probably, so to say, powerful project on connectivity, and I think we will use it as much as we can. And also, coming back to the private investments, I do believe in private investments. Honestly, I do not believe that any country in the world can repair other country, like in case with Ukraine. So I do believe that the only thing that could help us with the economy and increasing investments, it's private-public partnership, as well as foreign direct investments afterwards. So we have a legislation on PPP, but we will improve it because there is a lot of gaps in this legislation which is not allowed to use it efficiently. So through PPP and through also the reform, railways reform, which is coming next year, 2024, I didn't tell previously, but most probably we will adopt new legislation on railways, which will split our biggest state-owned enterprise company, Ukrzaliznytsia, into 4 parts, which is cargo, passengers, infrastructure, and maintenance. So, and this will allow us to attract investors and PPP projects into different parts of these of the railways. Why? Because I mean, investors who are working with cargo, they are not interested in passengers. Who are working with passengers, they are not interested in infrastructure, etc., etc. So it's very difficult to find a partner, for example, for Ukrainian state-owned enterprise Ukrzaliznytsia, because it's too big to. It's a monster, you know. It's 5% of our GDP. To attract investors to such and even do PPPs in such a such a big company, I don't think we will find partners, but we will split it. We can find an interesting project for development, including Moldova and Romania, to develop our railways network and to convert it basically to European railway networks. That's add up on to my previous speech.
Thank you. Mr. Tofilat, what is your opinion regarding the transition to Western-type railways in the Republic of Moldova?
Yeah, that's a great question. In this respect, there's already a pre-feasibility study and the strategy compounded by the European Commission on the transition of Ukraine and Moldova and on their integration into the European corridors. That means having, at least for the beginning, a line between Chisinau, Suceava, Ivano-Frankivsk, Lviv, Krakovets, which would allow the integration of at least some of the major cities into the EU gauge network. We've got to separate the normal development of the sectors from the post-war rehabilitation of Ukraine. Hopefully the second will happen very quick, so at that time we should concentrate on transporting freight and passengers mostly on the broad gauge in Moldova and Ukraine. While in a certain future, I mean mid-term, 8 to 10 years, I think many new lines of UIC gauge would appear in Moldova and Ukraine, and I believe the focus would be on the passenger lines. That's due, and on the fast freight, due to the particularities of the railway transport and on the bag-and-able freight, because the bag-and-able freight it does not enjoy the long distances. So indeed, the transport between Ukrainian manufacturers and Ukrainian ports, it might be still for a couple of decades on the broad gauge. while the high-speed passenger network, which is a continental defining project, I'm absolutely sure it should be on the standard gauge for the whole continent. Thanks.
Thank you. I would like to move to Q&A session. So if there is any question or, of course, any comment for our speakers, please raise your hand and my colleagues will provide you a mic. Please. We have a question. We have two questions, please.
Hello. Thank you. My name is Viktor Berestenko. I am the president of Association of Freight Forwarders of Ukraine. And the question is to Ministry of Infrastructure. Romania, you told about Port Constanța, and your colleagues told about customs. That customs started to work 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. We would like to pay your attention, please, about a graphic of work custom in Port of Constanța, because according to information from our members and according to information from trackers, even Romanian trackers, customs worked from Monday to Friday, from the morning to the evening. And it's really hard to understand that it's not now, it's bottleneck for supply chain between Romania and between Ukraine. And I will be appreciate to you and to all your colleagues if we will try to work custom 7 days per week in Constanța. Thank you so much.
Last week, we had a meeting with the European Commission, the US, Ukraine, and Moldova, and we spoke about launching a pilot project between Rengiuri, Giulești, Galați, and Constanța Port Customs in order to connect the electronic platforms, because we have an electronic system to monitor the trucks going through Reni port, and we also launched an electronic platform that registers trucks in Constanța, easing the flow. And we are now trying to coordinate with the Ukrainian customs so that the truck going through Reni customs to get to Constanța port in a predictable time frame. One more thing about this pilot project: the customs authorities will coordinate these flows and the predictability of goods check in Constanța in order to have optimal discharge of freight.
Hello, I'm Roman Majdanik. I have a question to Ms. Yulia. Yulia, you mentioned about main tools of cooperation, including private-public partnership. Could you shortly explain your meaning, solution of main problems by using this tool? Thank you very much. In the context of cooperation. Thank you.
When we're talking about PPP, private-public partnership, we actually in Ukraine, before the full-scale war, we had a few projects on PPP, big projects. It's Olvia and Kherson ports investments. In Olvia and Kherson, it's a big ports, different investors, but still I think it went more or less successfully with PPP, but unfortunately the full-scale war stopped these plans. But but I mean that we have a hands-on experience how to provide, how to do tenders and how to do PPPs. We need to improve our legislation because we clearly understand that now we needed to do it faster, because previous projects like Olvia and Kherson, it took 2 years from the start to finalize this PPP project, not finalize, but to pick up the winner of this project. So it's taking too much time of procedures of the PPP project. This is the biggest problem in Ukraine, that it's taking too long. We cannot allow ourselves now to spend 2 years for picking up investors. We have to, honestly, to pick up investors as much as fast as we can, because for us it's a matter of life and economy. If we will not have economy running full scale, we cannot run the state, we cannot keep our army, etc., etc. So that's why I'm saying that I see PPP is one of the tools that we can use quickly if we will do our homework and simplify the procedures of PPP inside in our legislation, as well as we can attract investors, because investors, honestly, looking at the country in war, they will always have, you know, concerns, and we already in the morning discussed insurances, war insurance, and it's not obvious at this point of time how we can get, for example, European or global war insurances, because now it's a country providing insurance for their own countries. For example, Germany for Germany business, France for French businesses, etc., etc. But this is not a universal recipe. That's why combining fast and clear procedures of PPP plus insurance, so that's how we can attract investments. Or maybe for the larger investments, for the larger projects like state projects on railways, which my Moldovan colleague mentioned, we can use state guarantees and attract also private money, because at this point of time I don't see that we can attract foreign direct investments being in the full-scale war, honestly. That's why for us it's the only few tools we can use for the infrastructure projects. We can attract small investors, but infrastructure always big money. Big money will come only under the state guarantees or under the clear insurance guarantees, or with a taking, for example, Ukraine taking a big part of the business in the PPP projects. And that's how we can attract into infrastructure projects. Because we are talking just a small part of infrastructure projects, but we need to repair. At this point of time, we have almost 27% of our railways damaged. We have thousands of kilometers of roads damaged after the war. So it's a huge amount of money we need to invest into the infrastructure and make it attractive. Because without infrastructure and repairing infrastructure, we will not able to develop other businesses, logistic businesses, trade, retail, and many other things we need to do. So that's why when I'm saying about PPP, we have experience, but we need to implement it more smoothly. Otherwise, you know, we are not competitive to other countries.
Thank you for sharing with us your opinion. Any other questions or comments, of course? The last call. No other questions. Okay, I would like to, we had such a fruitful discussion, so I would like each of you to draw conclusions at the end of our panel, and we will do a tour of table, and maybe we'll start with Mr. Kinde for conclusions.
I think that these unpleasant events which are happening in Ukraine with the unprovoked aggression of Russian Federation against Ukraine shows us more and emphasize the importance of infrastructure and the connectivity. I think that maybe until now we have some ideas, but with this event we realize how important it is. And the money which is spent in developing the infrastructure are investment in the future in the security of the countries in the whole regions.
Thank you. Mr. Tofilad, you have the floor for the conclusions.
Yeah, thank you. Indeed, Indeed, what was done during 2022 and 2023 on the Danube corridor in Moldova, Romania, and Ukraine, that is really impressive. So Ukraine managed to rearrange its logistic almost fully without using the port. So that's something that doesn't happen too often in the history, and that happened in a very short time. What is important right now is to improve the efficiency of these corridors to help our brave neighbors to come through this difficult period in their national development. So we believe at this time is important to have a lot of pragmatism, a lot of patience, and a lot of empathy. And with this kind of coordination and cooperation, I think we will achieve greater things in the coming years. Thanks.
Thank you. And of course, this will be very important also for Republic of Moldova to achieve this goal. Please, your conclusion, Mr. SCRIOTTEANU.
I believe that the most important aspect or conclusion is the fact that reconstruction begins now with a transport infrastructure. Precisely because we need for the reconstruction to be carried out in due time, in an efficient manner, and with minor costs. For that, we already realized that we need short and very short-term investments, and maybe the EU investment mechanisms are not very well adapted to crisis situations, because the EU funding available for Romania or for the Republic of Moldova and for Ukraine are quite time-consuming, and they produce effects on the medium and long term. That is why we need new funding resources that could be flexible and that would adapt to real-time in-field situations. There are emergency mechanisms available for Ukraine where there is a martial law. There are emergency mechanisms for the Republic of Moldova as well. Since we in Romania have no emergency mechanism, we merely need to be able to absorb European funding under the old mechanisms, which are not adapted to the current day situation that we are facing.
Regarding this?
We have built a strategy together with Moldova and Ukraine. We do have a strategy for border crossing points, that we have a strategy developed together with the French government with regard to the railway infrastructure. We've already started implementing it, and we are currently developing a three-party railway and maritime strategy. So we are working in this sense, but we feel that we lack the necessary funding in order to be able to really have an available infrastructure for the reconstruction of Ukraine.
Mrs. KLYMENKO, you have the floor for the conclusions, please.
I do believe that we all together we can fight and build efficiently. So that's why we need to keep our friendship close, to have harmonized strategies in maritime, in railways, in roads. That's how we can make it efficient and cheaper. And also we have to keep Ukraine in agenda, and providing a weapon. It's not about only war and fight. It's also about protecting civilians as well as protecting investments. If we can cover our skies by air defense, our coast by defense, and we can demine our rivers and Black Sea, then we can have much more attractive region and more interesting and cheaper insurance, and not only insurance, but cheap investments with a low interest rates. Otherwise, unfortunately, we will need to struggle with high risks and high risk investors, so to say, to find a completely different profile of investors. So that's my main message. We have to keep all together, to harmonize our activities and go further, because this is the only way. As we proved for past 2 years, we can do it smoothly, fast, and increase, for example, Danube capacity from 10 times, basically, 10 times in 2 years.
Because I think Black Sea is the key to win this economical war.
Exactly. It's not only about economic war, it's about energy, because Romania has a huge energy resources in the Black Sea, as well as Ukraine. And the whole war is about energy, resources, money, because unfortunately Russia and Kremlin, they are very cynical people. They are not fighting only for geopolitical win. They love money, and they are using this war to extract more money from our countries, to make our life difficult and our economy struggling. So let's have a decent answer to them.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the discussion, and I'm sure we'll discuss about this subject in the near future, because there are a lot of insights to be extracted from our speakers. And I invite you to a round of applause, and then we will continue the conference. We will have a short break until 4:40, and then I invite you to the next panel, the Danube role of Ukraine's reconstruction process. Please, a round of applause for our speakers. Thank you.